I'm Ethan Monroe, originally from a small town in Vermont. In my early 20s, I lived near Burlington, trying to piece my life together after a rough breakup. It was a time of confusion, a phase where I wandered through life, searching for something I couldn't name. After losing my grandfather, a veteran and a revered figure in our community, I started accompanying my grandmother to church every Sunday. She found solace in her unwavering faith, and I found it grounding to be near her, even if I wasn't religious myself. Her belief in something bigger was comforting, almost contagious. One Sunday, as the service ended, I noticed a girl sitting alone in the back pew. She wasn't familiar, a rare occurrence in our tight-knit church. She had jet black curls and piercing green eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. She caught me staring and smiled. Something about her smile was magnetic yet unsettling. Her name was Claire. When I approached her, I felt an instant connection, the kind that makes you feel both drawn in and cautious. She spoke with a soft, melodic voice, dodging personal questions with playful deflections. After some persistence, she told me her family had recently moved to the area under difficult circumstances. She didn't elaborate, and I didn't push. Her cryptic charm was intoxicating. Over the week, we exchanged texts and talked late into the night, but there was something off. Her social media had barely any posts, and she had no mutual friends with anyone I knew. When I asked about her past, her answers were vague, as if she were hiding something. Yet, the mystery only pulled me closer. The following Sunday, Claire was at church again. After the service, I gathered the courage to ask her out, and to my surprise, she immediately said yes. We planned a simple date, a movie followed by dinner. That night, Claire seemed different. Her usual playful demeanor was subdued. She was quiet, almost brooding, but her presence was still captivating. After dinner, I suggested a drive to clear the air. She agreed without hesitation. The road was dark, bordered by towering trees that seemed to close in on us as we drove deeper into the countryside. Claire stared out the window in silence, her reflection on the glass flickering oddly with the passing streetlights. I tried to lighten the mood with small talk, but she barely responded, her gaze fixed on the darkness outside. And then, it happened. Claire began speaking in a language I didn't recognize. Her voice was low at first, almost like a hum, but it grew louder and more frantic. Her words twisted and snarled, sounding like a cursed chant. I glanced over, and my blood turned to ice. Her eyes had rolled back, leaving only the whites. Panic surged through me. I swerved, nearly losing control of the car. I yelled her name, but she didn't respond. Instead, her head tilted unnaturally to the side, and her mouth moved faster, the guttural sounds spilling out like a broken record. I pulled over, trembling, and reached for my phone to call for help. As I fumbled with the screen, Claire's body started to convulse. Her hands clawed at the air, and her head jerked violently. Then she stopped. Her eyes snapped open, normal again, but filled with a wild intensity. She stared at me with a chilling grin, her face unnervingly still. Before I could speak, she whispered, "You shouldn't have followed me." Then she bolted. She flung the car door open and sprinted into the woods, disappearing into the shadows. I sat there, paralyzed. My hand shook so violently that I dropped my phone. The woods swallowed her completely, leaving nothing but silence. By the time the paramedics and police arrived, there was no trace of her. I explained everything, the chanting, her eyes, her sudden escape, but their skeptical expressions made it clear They didn't believe me. They promised to search the area, but hinted it was likely a case of miscommunication or a lover's spat. But it wasn't. Claire didn't just vanish. She erased herself. Her phone number was disconnected. Her social media accounts disappeared. When I asked around at church, no one remembered seeing her. It was as if she had never existed. Months passed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Sometimes, I'd catch a glimpse of dark curls in a crowd, or hear a familiar laugh behind me, only to turn and find nothing. One night, I woke up to a faint humming outside my window, a tune I recognized but couldn't place. To this day, I don't know who or what Claire was. I moved away, but the memory of her haunts me. Sometimes in the dead of night, I dream of her eyes, white, empty, and staring straight into my soul. And in those dreams, I hear her voice again. You shouldn't have followed me.